everyone, and a very good morning or afternoon depending on where you're joining us from today. Thank you very much for coming along to this webinar to discuss supporting your staff in identifying and communicating the wider impact of their research. We should be taking about 45 minutes of your time today, including an opportunity for a designated question and answer session at the end. If you are familiar with the GoToMeeting software that we are using, you might know that there's a questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen near the bottom. If you would like to ask questions as and when they occur to you, please feel free to type them up and send them over via the panel. And we're quite happy to take those as we're going through, or we'll take them at the very end of the presentation. We'll also be making a recording of the webinar available as well. So if you wish to view it again or share it with your colleagues, that will be an option for you. This will be available early next week. At the moment, you are all on mute because the feedback can sometimes affect the quality of the sound. So if you do have any questions or issues you would like to raise, please do so in the question panel on the right-hand side of the screen. So firstly, just a couple of introductions. That's me, Sarah Vaughan, on the left-hand side. I'm the events manager for Epigeum, and we are the organization that puts together the online courses. A large part of my role is looking after our collaboration and implementation workshops, as well as our product launches and online events such as this. I'll let Dr. Jed Hall and then Catherine introduce themselves now.
Hi everyone, my name's, as Sarah said, Jed Hall. I work at the University of Leeds in the UK, in the staff development unit there, supporting researchers to have impact.
Hello, my name's Catherine Burton. I'm a project editor at Epigeum and I worked on the Enhancing Research Impact project along with my colleague Sarah Grant.
Thank you both. Just a quick look at the agenda before we get started. First, we'll have a look at Epigeum itself. We're the organization that puts together the programs through a collaborative model, which is quite unique, and I will briefly touch on this. Then we'll move on to Dr. Jed Hall's presentation, where he will cover the background and vision for the Enhancing Research Impact program. Following this, Catherine will provide you with a program overview of Enhancing Research Impact and also a live demonstration. We will then wrap up with a question and answer session. As I mentioned in the beginning, please do feel free to type up your questions in the panel on the right-hand side as the webinar progresses. So we were founded in 2005 as a spin-out originally from Imperial College London. Our two founders created the company in response to what they felt was a lack of timely support for researchers. One of our founders was doing a PhD at the time while working full-time, and he came across issues that he wanted and needed to be advised on. And it would either be that there would be a face-to-face course in 3 months' time that was being offered, or that there was inadequate or boring material online that didn't quite fit what he needed. So he saw this as an opportunity to work with universities to create supported materials for researchers, particularly PhD students and postdocs like himself, that gave just-in-time support for all these issues. And that's where we started, in the research arena within higher education. We have since expanded to studying programs and teaching and leadership programs as well. We were acquired by Oxford University Press in May of last year. Oxford University Press are actually a division of Oxford University, so we're still within the not-for-profit organisation in a higher education context and still very much focused on creating high-quality learning materials. To date, in the decades since we have been formed, we have created over 92 online courses across 19 different programs, and we have currently 7 in development. We are an increasingly globally focused organisation and have worked with over 260 universities across 30 different countries worldwide to date. This is just a map to show you what countries we have been involved with in the development of our courses. So now I would like to show you a very short video which will explain our development process to you.
The story of an Epigeum course. We come up with an idea and we consult widely to develop and fine-tune it. We commission a team of expert authors to write it and a team of expert reviewers to help them. We commission a lead advisor who gives strategic vision and leadership. And we bring together a team of universities who form a development group to give feedback on our plans and prototypes and to make sure the product meets their needs. The collaborations we build are drawn from across the world and often involve input from over 50 academics, as well as our team of in-house specialists. Because we believe that collaboration and iteration are the key to producing truly innovative and effective products. So we bring everyone together for a launch workshop at the start of each project. It's a great mixing pot where the creative juices can flow and expertise can be shared. We provide a week-long training course for our writing team to make sure they're able to get the best out of the online medium. and we provide plenty of opportunities for sampling and feedback along the way through a detailed peer review process. In fact, a typical product goes through at least 5 iterations before it's ready to be built by our in-house developers. Together, we're more than the sum of our parts, and our unique and rigorous product development process gives all collaborators access to groundbreaking courses that couldn't have created alone. Here's what some of our customers have to say. Our products are used by over 200 institutions in 25 different countries. To find out more about the collaborations we're currently building, click on the Next Steps button or get in touch with us direct. We'd love to work with you.
Just to summarize a couple of the points that were made in that video, the development group of universities come together and share their experience at a workshop to help us create a really great online course. We recruit authors all under the guidance of a lead advisor. In the case of this program we are discussing today, that would be Dr. Jed Hall. The lead advisor is the person who has the expertise in the area who can lead and shape the vision for the program. We have a meticulous review process in place which allows the development group to look at the content of the courses, check that it matches their expectations, and comment on it as well. Thus, the development group of universities are the early adopters who get to use the program and implement them at their universities. And then we make it available to other universities on a license basis, which is what we are now able to do with the completed program for enhancing research impact. I would like to briefly touch on implementation here, which is how the course can be used at your institution. Catherine will be showing you the course content later as part of a demonstration, so please bear this in mind during the demo so that you can see how the course can be used in these ways. So firstly, it can be used as a standalone academic course. You can supply the students with an online multimedia-rich course immediately at the time and place they need it, and so this would be in a self-study mode. The advantage here is that you can make the course quite personal and release training on demand, and so it is the most flexible option of the three. Secondly, in the middle, we have the option for tutor-supported online courses. There is plenty of supplementary material available as part of the course, which can be used by tutors to enhance the course. Tutors can be used to provide feedback which cannot be provided by computers. They can work on community-based features and also give motivational messages. So there's a whole tutoring side to the course that can be used if you do have the capacity. The advantage here is that the course is allowed to be much more effective, but you would lose the flexibility as you would tend to have a fixed start and end time. Finally, and this is the most common use of our courses and programs, is that it can be used as part of a blended learning program. Typically how this works is that the students are given access to the online course ahead of a workshop, and then the workshop would really focus on consolidation and application of the material. This is considered to be maybe the most effective pedagogically, but also the least flexible. So you have this spectrum here from the most flexible on the left to the most pedagogically effective on the right. You can also implement the course in all three modes at once. So together these three methods of implementation provided with you with quite an armory to get your students the support and knowledge they require. So hopefully that's given you a bit of background to Epigeum and how we put the programs together. I'd be happy to take any questions on this process, but for now I'll hand over to Dr. Jed Hall.
Hi. So I've titled my presentation Leaving a Legacy, and that really was chosen to kind of demonstrate the vision behind the program. It's about trying to help all researchers who access the program to think about what is it that they're going to leave behind other than just their academic impact. The things that they're motivated by hopefully will spread out not just from what they achieve in their academic career, but what that information and knowledge helps others to achieve. So I'll come back to that in a little while when I talk about the vision for the program. Quick outline to what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to do a little bit around the background to the program, what its vision is, what kind of things it kind of goes into and what it's based on. A little bit about why I'm involved, a little bit about my background, and why Epigeum chose me as the lead advisor for this program, and then I wanted to kind of go into some suggestions for ways in which you may use the program and build on those models that that Sarah's just talked about. So the vision is really to encourage and motivate researchers to consider what their legacy that their research will generate, and as well as focusing on that legacy, what is it that the impact is. Really, in terms of that vision, it's the words that I want you to focus on are encouraging and motivating researchers. And that's really where the program starts from. It's really about getting researchers excited by impact rather than concerned about it, and excited enough to really want to engage with it and hopefully generate something that that they can be invested in. So it really is about focusing on that individual's motivations and what they're excited about when it comes to impact, not just about the research questions that may motivate them as well. So really kind of trying to hammer that point home, this course isn't about preparing people for any assessment exercise. It really is about trying to get them to understand and engage with the joy, hopefully, of what impact can offer them in terms of a fulfilling piece of work that they can undertake, and engaging with people that they can also learn from. So I often use that quote from Goethe in workshops and discussions that I have with people across campus here at Leeds, and it's really trying to open up that doorway so that people feel they are empowered to help others to apply and help others achieve things from the research findings that they're generating. Now, the only reason I've got REF on this, the REF 2014 on this slide, is to really demonstrate that even before impact was assessed and became part of the assessment process here in the UK, people were doing this. It's not anything new. You know, there were nearly 7,000 impact case studies submitted to REF 2014. Well, none of that was generated just as a result of HEFCE, the lead body for REF, deciding to assess impact. So it didn't all start happening from 2010 onwards when it was decided that that impact would be part of that. People were doing it, people were excited about it, and people were getting things from it. And I think that's the thing we need to bear in mind here. So in terms of my background, really, why did I end up being involved in this? So as a researcher, I did my PhD in physical chemistry. That's quite some time ago now, but I did research in that area for a few years and also taught in that area as well. I then left higher education and worked for worked as a technology solution consultant. And really the best way of describing that is that we were kind of a broker relationship. So I worked in the oil, gas and utility sectors trying to understand the business needs and the business problems that were going on, and sometimes we could solve those quite easily, and other times we needed to get in touch with people in academia with bigger, brighter, faster brains to help us solve those problems and really help drive the business forward. So that really opened up, you know, how relationships between researchers and those that might use it can help drive the knowledge between those two sectors, both the knowledge of the needs and the knowledge of the research. About 13 years ago, I moved back into higher education in a training and development role, really focusing in on early career researchers, so people, PhD, research staff, and maybe up to mid-career once they've got a a full academic post. And then in the last 5 years, I've been coaching researchers at all levels. So that's professors as well as those more junior colleagues, to really try and engage with impact and deliver it. And that kind of brings me to why I'm motivated. So what's kind of in this for me? Why am I involved in that work? And it really comes from that deep fascination for research and all the things it can deliver. And I mean research way beyond my original disciplinary background of physical chemistry. I mean fascinated by research of all types. In fact, looking back, if I was to advise my 20-year-old self what research to go into, I would probably now tell him to go into psychology. So there you go. You can hop. But my fascination derives from a kind of immediate question that always springs into my head. That's really interesting. What could we do with it? So it really comes from that kind of applying, doing, changing things as a result of new knowledge. But my fascination doesn't come from, wow, that's just so clever, and I'm really impressed by that. So that's really my personal motivation, and I keep coming back to that personal motivation. We have to try and tap into that for people to be successful with impact. So over the last 5 and a bit years, I've worked with people of all disciplines here at Leeds. Leeds is a big institution, those of you who know it. We have people from just about every type of research discipline. We have people in philosophy all the way around to particle physics. And this slide is just trying to show all the different types of disciplines I've worked with. So a couple of examples I'm going to pick out. I was heavily involved in working with a group, and it was actually an international collaboration looking at Jewish musical archives and trying to get cultural assessment of people's reaction to old music that had been forgotten and rediscovered through that research. So that was a really interesting project that's actually ongoing. I've also worked with psychologists looking at mindfulness interventions both within the workplace and within secondary schools, which again was fascinating from the perspective of trying to influence policy at the national level in the UK. And that was fascinating, trying to get the researcher in the right place to talk to the right people, and try and drive things forward in that direction. So as a result of working with those people across the disciplinary spectrum, I've kind of realized that impact isn't driven by the discipline. It's driven by those who can make use of the research and whatever contexts and ways they identify themselves. So that may not be anything to do with identifying with a particular academic discipline. It may be identifying with a profession or even a cause in terms of maybe charities engaging with research, for instance. So what's really emerged from working with all those disciplines is that impact only happens by relationships, and if you speak to your researchers and they engage with the information in the program, if they don't get that message, then maybe we've written it wrong. But it's all about relationships. Impact will only happen if there's a deep and trusting relationship between the people generating research and the people who can make use of it, and a dialogue that goes backwards and forwards between those two groups to make sure that things work well. So it's really heavily underpinned, the curriculum across the whole of the program, by that relational understanding who may benefit, understanding the context within which they operate, the pressures they feel, the things that excite them as well. So understanding all of that will really help researchers to be successful with impact. So the course is really all about trying to get people all to the same starting point. So if your researchers go through this program, they'll be clear on what do we mean by impact. They'll be clear on where that relational approach really embeds itself in the process, and be clear on the kind of effort and enjoyment they can get from that, the effort it takes to build and maintain relationships, and obviously the enjoyment and the satisfaction that comes through those relationships, and kind of dispelling the myths that the impact is maybe all about, some people may have a myth that it's all about economics, that it's all about job creation, that it's all about solving big challenges such as climate change. Impact can happen with just one conversation, one piece of information moving into the right person's hands, and a whole series of things can happen as a result of that. So getting up people all to the same point. And I think also it's important to bear in mind, Sarah mentioned those 3 ways of implementing the program. Whichever one you choose, and if you choose all 3, that's great, but whichever one you choose, then people need to be supported in turning the learning from the program into reality. So we definitely use a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring. We have real resources available to people, so possibly small amounts of pump prime funding to help cause relationships to happen. Maybe the train fare to get to meet somebody in person, and maybe slightly bigger amounts than that. And we also are starting to embed the acknowledgement of impact within our promotions criteria, and also celebrating that at a university-wide level in terms of the same kind of ways we would do with the great teachers and the great researchers who win prestigious academic medals and awards, for instance. So that's now kind of part of the culture and the way things work. So I'd encourage you to, if you haven't got that, to think about how you might do all of that, to really model that relational approach for your researchers as they undertake their impact activities. So really I'm going to kind of finish off by talking about just kind of 3 key things to sort of focus on. I've already mentioned that compulsion and assessment are often counterproductive, and what you should be aiming for is to try and have your researchers excited and motivated by getting involved in impact. If they're not, then they probably won't be successful at it. And research is now starting to emerge that those who are good at impact are those that are passionate about it. And I think that's fairly obvious, really. Those that are passionate about any pastime, any activity, are those who are likely to be the ones that are better at it than those who are less passionate about it, and you have to work harder to generate some enjoyment from something. Also, think about the scale of the challenge, because often when you speak to people who are kind of new in exploring this area, they kind of go, really, it's kind of an external, almost assessment compulsion that they're feeling there. They want me to change the world. Come on, is that really credible? Can I do that on my own? The simple answer to all of those is no. The easy answer is to try and think much more credibly and realistically about what impact goals an individual or a small team of researchers can hope to achieve. But once things start rolling with impact, and once you've enabled people to start changing things in their environment for hopefully the better, then that ball will generate its own momentum and will carry on, and that won't require the researcher to really be heavily involved, but because they'll have a relationship with those people, they'll probably want to keep in touch and see how it goes. And that's the kind of final thing. So as I've said and repeated on a number of occasions, generating impact is all about building relationships. So speak to your researchers and talk to them about the networking that they get involved with. And I don't just mean the networking outside the academy, although that's hugely important, but networks within the academy. So do they just talk to people from their own disciplinary background, or do they go and inquire about what are the problems other researchers face? Could they help? Could they get involved? What kind of things might a theoretical mathematician help to solve for all sorts of people? You know, those are the conversations to be had that might unearth routes to impact and people to help. Now, the key thing to think about is those relationships take energy, they take effort. So that needs to be recognized. The work that goes into building relationships needs to be recognized, and space carved into their busy schedules to allow that. So whatever you can do to try and make that culturally acceptable and culturally actually promoted at your institution will also enable the program to be more successful if you can do that. But remind all researchers who get involved in impact that they'll be benefiting just as much as those who share in the knowledge, because they'll find new questions that are exciting. They'll find information that might be useful for a promotion. They'll find just things that are about their legacy that motivate them to carry on researching and looking for the next big grant, the next big piece of work. I'm going to stop there, and if there are any questions, please feel free to come back to me. I'll hand back.
Thank you very much, Jad. As Jed mentioned, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to type them up in the questions panel now, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. For now, I'll be handing over to Catherine to do a demo of the actual course.
Thank you, Sarah. So the Enhancing Research Impact programme is made up of 4 courses, as you can see here. Course 1 is an introduction to research impact. Course 2 is the research impact process. Course 3, tools and techniques for research impact. And course 4, writing about impact, guidance and templates. So in this demonstration, I will be giving you a brief overview of what is covered in each course, and I'll also be picking out a few sample screens to show you from each one. But before I do that, I just wanted to point out a few of the key features that are common to every screen within our programs. So at the top of each screen, there's a learning outcome. This outlines what's going to be covered in the screen and what you should have learned or should be able to do after completing that screen. So for example here, the purpose is for researchers to understand how impact was assessed in the 2014 REP exercise, just as a sort of awareness raising. Screen durations then, also at the top of the screen here on the right hand side, we give an estimate of how long it will take you to work through the screen. So here we've estimated that this screen will take 9 minutes to complete. In addition to the interactive version of our course, we also provide a text-only version. This ensures that our courses are fully accessible to anyone using a screen reader or unable to use the interactive version for whatever reason. You'll also see that on the right-hand side of some screens there are little pop-out boxes which we call pods. These contain supplementary information, external links, definitions, activities and so on. So for example, the Your Context pod, like the one on this screen, is there to encourage you to find out more about your institutional context by researching relevant guidelines, policies and personnel. And universities also have the option of customizing these pods by adding links and information specific to their institution. So I'll now just give you an overview of each of the 4 courses and demo a few of the screens. So course 1, which we're in currently, is an introduction to research impact. So this is really about what impact is, defining impact, why it's important to achieve impact, and also we look briefly at how impact can be assessed, taking examples from the UK REF assessment and also the Australian exercise. So this course is really about setting the scene for what's to come in the rest of the programme, and it encourages researchers to think more broadly about why their research is important and what motivates them. So one of the reasons that I wanted to show this screen is to showcase the video content. So throughout the ERI programme you'll find short video clips taken from interviews that we've conducted with academics and impact experts. So on this screen we have some video interviews with members of the 2014 REF assessment panels, providing insight into some of the challenges that researchers faced when providing evidence for impact, and also what panel members were looking for in an effective impact case study. I just wanted to point out that all of our videos also have a transcript for accessibility purposes. So moving into another screen of course 1, what motivates your research? Another great way of representing the peer voice in our programmes is by using polls. So in this poll, researchers are asked to reflect on what motivates them to do research. So they can select 3 of the options given, and then they cast their vote. And then they're given an insight into how their motivations align with those of their peers. I'll just show you one more screen in course 1. So this screen on what are your impact aims. The programme contains a lot of practical advice, and one way we like to convey this advice is by using case studies and example scenarios. So in this screen we have a scenario presented in the form of a comic strip, and it outlines a conversation between 2 researchers who are talking about the best way to approach a local MP in order to influence policy. So the more experienced researcher in the scenario has a number of useful suggestions to support her less experienced colleague, including carrying out further research, making a list of contacts, rewriting his approach email, and also setting up and maintaining a social media account. The scenario also highlights some of the common mistakes that researchers make when thinking about how to influence public policy. So now I'll move on to course 2. Course 2 provides an overview of what's involved in the research impact process. So by that we mean that we introduce the key steps involved in generating impact, including setting impact goals, identifying stakeholders. As Jed mentioned in his presentation, stakeholder relationships are key to impact, designing activities to achieve impact, and also building stakeholder relationships. We look also at the different types of funding that's available for impact and provide advice on what to include in the impact section of a funding application. Finally, we look at how you can capture and provide evidence of impact, and we introduce the steps involved in the evaluation process. So by the end of this course, researchers should understand what's involved in the process of generating impact and should feel confident to start planning their own impact journey. So let's just have a look at one of the screens. This screen is called What Does Impact Cost? So most funding applications will need to include a breakdown of the costs associated with impact. And in the activity on this screen, participants are required to read through an example of a budget justification and highlight the items that should be included in their project budget using the highlighting tool. Once they've done that, they can then click to see what we think should be included. And we also provide explanations why this is the case. Moving on to another screen. In the screen on justifying costs and resources, we then ask users to read through some different examples of budget justifications and to assess whether the costs are adequately justified. So, for example, it's not sufficient just to state that you want to fly in 2 expert speakers for your impact event and that this will cost £4,500. You need to explain how you arrived at that figure. What are the individual flight costs? What kind of hotels are the speakers staying in? You also need to explain who the speakers are and what they're contributing to the project. So this exercise will help researchers recognise just how much detail needs to go into a budget justification if you want your application to be successful. Course 3 then builds on Course 2 by providing practical advice and guidance on how to achieve impact, including an overview of the tools, methods and approaches that can help researchers throughout the research process, from initial project planning through to evaluation and beyond. So this screen here is one of my favourites in the programme. It's a really fun and interactive screen that gets you thinking about how to engage with stakeholders. In the first activity, you're given a choice of 2 fictional research projects to work on. So I'm going to choose Project 1. So you read the profiles of the 4 potential stakeholders for the project, and then you have to answer a series of questions about how suitable that stakeholder is as a match to the project. You can type your answers into the spaces provided. The next section explains how to use a power interest grid to categorise stakeholders in a project. So the power and interest ratings that you give to each stakeholder determine whether you should communicate, consult, connect, or collaborate with them. And in the final activity, you can practice using one of these grids to categorise the stakeholders from the fictional project that we saw earlier in the screen. And you do this by dragging and dropping the markers into the correct position. Each of the markers represents one of the 4 stakeholders in the project. So the process and the feedback provided in this activity should help participants to think a bit more about who they could work with in their own projects. And we also provide a downloadable grid which they can use for themselves. I wanted to demonstrate the screen on Writing for Impact, and the aim of this screen is to encourage researchers to think more broadly about non-academic audiences and non-academic writing. We've included here an interactive graphic activity, which is an annotated blog post taken from a successful real-life impact blog written by Professor Kathy Parker at Manchester Metropolitan University Business School. So this activity provides some tips on how to write an effective blog. And finally, moving on to Course 4. The aim of this course is to help researchers consolidate what they have learned throughout taking the programme into a set of practical materials to support them on their impact journey. In each screen, the main content provides a recap and further advice on a particular topic. Each screen also includes a downloadable template which researchers are encouraged to go away and complete as an additional component to taking the course. For example, they might be asked to review their funding application by answering a series of review questions or to write a detailed impact plan. I've chosen this screen on writing an impact report to demonstrate another of our key features, animations. So here we have a presentation illustrating what types of information you would need to convey to your funder. I won't play the whole thing, but here's a quick taster.
come to write a report for a funder or for your institution, you will need to be able to demonstrate what has changed as a result of your research and impact activities. Therefore, before your activities begin, you need to establish what the current situation or baseline is so that you have something to measure against. You may already have gathered some baseline data when you were writing your proposal as part of the case you made for carrying out the research in the first place. You need to think about who you are trying to influence with your research, what data is available about their current behaviours, opinions, and practices, etc., what your ideal outcome is in terms of impact and what your stakeholders hope to gain by engaging with you, and what evaluation and measuring tools you will use throughout the project to track impact. Once you've established a baseline, you can begin to plan your impact activities.
So animations like this are a really great way of explaining complex processes in an interesting and engaging way. And one other thing I'd like to emphasise before I finish up is that ERI is packed full of real-life interviews, practice scenarios and case studies. We felt that with this programme in particular, it was really important to showcase excellent research and to represent a broad range of disciplines. So thanks very much for watching this brief demonstration, and I'll now hand back to Sarah for a Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Catherine. So if you have any questions, please do feel free to start typing them up. Jed, I think we have a question from you, for you. This is it's from Mohammed. The question is, how can this program be used to motivate graduate students to do an impactful research?
Well, I've found that graduate students are often, I suppose, maybe that idealism that may come early in life helps them to think about that longer term. They're also, although there isn't huge space in a doctoral program, there is often probably more space than in a full-time academic role. So they have the time and space to maybe explore some of those issues. So what we've tried to do in terms of helping doctoral students is that we offer the same level of coaching that we would offer a prof. So if a doctoral student wants to try and achieve impact, we'll work with them longitudinally. We'll help them through that, getting them through that first stage that this course is trying to get to. What's their impact? What do they hope to achieve? What's their definition? And then how might I try and make that happen as a result of it? Bearing in mind that the fixed-term nature of the doctoral program can possibly limit where they might end up getting to while they're still at your institution, but it may obviously open up interesting career paths for them as they go forward beyond the program.
Thank you very much, Jed. We don't have any more questions at the moment, but if anybody else thinks of some questions they would like to ask either Jed or ourselves, please do feel free to get in touch, and you can do that by dropping us an email at the email address I've listed. So here are some of our contact details, and you may have already been in touch with us in regards to the Enhancing Research Impact Program. We can give you a lot more detail in regards to pricing and implementation of the program at the We can give you a lot more detail in regards to pricing and implementation of this program at your institution. So please do contact us if you have any questions. We're also able to provide you with a free trial of Enhancing Research Impact. So if you are interested in accessing the program yourself, you can do that too. We will be sending a recording of this presentation out, so you can share it with the relevant colleagues who may find this of interest to them as well. I think we might have one more question. How can we build relationships with other researchers, as some researchers don't want to share their knowledge?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think those people, I wouldn't say they're lost causes, but I don't think if you were categorizing your researchers in who who do you think is most likely to be impactful? You know, if you put them into the kind of top quarter, the middle quarter, those sorts of people would probably be in the bottom quarter, so you might put less of your effort there with them. And that might feel, I don't want that to sound as if it's cynical, but when we think about it's about relationships, it's about being open and very free. I don't mean if a piece of research can be commercialized, don't do that. I just mean free in terms of engaging with people and looking for shared interests. So if a person isn't into that, they're probably never going to really be a researcher who has impact, and they might not be the sort of researcher who has even strong academic collaborations. So that, yeah, I think the kind of answer to that one is maybe look for other people.
Great. Thank you, Jed. So I think that's the end of all our questions. Again, you can, if you think of something later, please do email us. We have had a couple of questions in regards to cost. If you do send us an email, we can provide you with a quote for your institution, as this depends on the size of your institution and the license that you would like to purchase. So please get in touch and we can provide you with all that information and more, or go to our website and you can find some more information about the Enhancing Research Impact Program. So thank you very much for attending the webinar today. Again, feel free to get in touch with us, otherwise you will hear from us probably early next week with a recording of the webinar. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a very nice day.